To bring up bad memories, Caleb Calhoun of all for Tennessee, but boy, you really were giving it to Marcus Mariota and all this, and yeah, I made some good points here, and I think the rest of the NFL is wondering the same thing. What do you think about Marcus Mariota right now? I mean, we're 9 possessions, 9 punts, and you've run out of patience with Mariota, have you not?
I have. Now, to be fair, I will say in the greater context, this kind of starts with like people I've been in Twitter wars, like with dating back to 2015, because I didn't really believe in Mariota when, and I will admit I'm a Titans fan, and I didn't believe in Mariota when they drafted him. But I was willing to give him a chance. I even forgave him after 2015, and in 2016, we saw kind of a little bit of a resurgence, and we're thinking, okay, maybe he's got a future in this system, but this is the second straight year he's on track to have more interceptions than touchdowns. And I know people are going to talk about the offensive line play yesterday, and I'm not here to defend Taylor Lewan and Jack Conklin. I mean, that's a top 10 pick and a top 10 paid offensive lineman, and they were embarrassing. But I will say that a sack is not always on the offensive line. The quarterback can get rid of the ball. And 11 sacks, more sacks than completions, that's as much on the quarterback as it is on the line.
Well, I will say this. It seemed as if Tennessee was applying some decent pressure on the Auburn offense, and for as critical as I've been against Jared Quarantano, how's this for a segue to the Tennessee Volunteers? You've at least proved today that he wasn't the worst quarterback in the SEC, or I should say he proved on Saturday that. It was a surprising victory. I know that the color commentator that we have on our high school broadcast, Jordan Hensley, said, look, Tennessee's going to win this game. I'm going to tell you that. But, it was your takes from the victory here. Tell us what you thought here. I took away, hey, they did finally what we thought they needed to do, open up the offense, 32 passes. But what else, Caleb Calhoun?
Well, that was the big thing. I think more than anything, the clock was reset on Garantano. And what I would say with that was, if you watched that game, you could tell that even the Auburn defense, Kevin Steele didn't have a lot of faith in the Vols airing it out, because I saw way too many one-on-one coverages when they aired it out. And, I mean, I knew the ball was going to be completed before it was. And so I think that's the best thing, is that for the Vols, the clock has at least been reset, where teams now think, okay, well, we at least may have to cover these receivers in the secondary because they'll air it out and they can make plays, and Jared Garantano can complete those plays. I do think the biggest concern is, and it's no secret, everybody saw it on Saturday, Tennessee still can't run the ball between the tackles right now. And that's a problem. Left guard play is still a major issue. And so that's the biggest concern. But the other thing, the big thing that took away on defense was, for the first time all year, you noticed the front seven didn't get tired. After the Vols took the lead, I actually said that the Vols were going to have to put their foot on the gas, because the defense had been getting tired in the previous couple of games, but the defense was what actually won the game in the end.
Now, Caleb Calhoun of all for Tennessee, I would agree, although I do think, my goodness, we had heard that Auburn's offense was struggling, and boy, how he did it not. I just, to me, I was like, okay, maybe Tennessee is a little bit better than we thought. But, you mentioned the man-to-man defense. I'm getting this sense with Jeremy Pruitt. You're not going to really get a real good answer out of him in a press conference, but I don't know if you saw his coach's show, and they're going over the highlights with Bob Kessling, and he says, if they're going to play man-to-man, take it, as Guarantano completes a pass, and they show the third quarter highlights. And I said, right there, that's the key right there. They are not going to throw long against zone, but they will against man-to-man. And I think that's what we learned from this Tennessee-Auburn game. Anything to add to that, Caleb?
No, that's a very good point. And honestly, it could be a little concerning, because you want to get some of those defenses that may play zone, you're wondering if they don't have the faith in Garantano to be able to accurately drop it in there. Whereas man-to-man, he can just kind of throw it up and let his receivers come down with it. But, I mean, credit where credit's due, Garantano did that, and he took it, and he was under duress a lot. I mean, he was hit a lot of the times he threw the ball. And never really let it phase them. I will say one thing about him, still question question his accuracy downfield sometimes, but I will say that you're noticing Garantano is able to stand in the pocket and take those hits and still throw it down the field, and that is a big deal. But I agree. I think that it was – I had wondered where this was the last 2 weeks because, maybe I'm wrong, but I didn't fully watch the tape because there's so many other things going on and I didn't really have too many chances. But
Sure.
I'm pretty sure Kirby Smart and Todd Grantham like to play a lot of man-to-man too.
Now,
and I was wondering why they didn't try it a little more against Florida and Georgia.
That's a good point. But 32 passes finally. I mean, it wasn't. We talked about this last week. I mean, and now that it's the third Saturday in October is coming up, just how close to the vest Tennessee played last year, 2-1 run versus pass with Guarantano at QB, and they lose 43-7, and the 7 is a pick six by Rashard Golden, the infamous one, where he gave the finger to the Alabama fans afterwards. But yes, finally, Eli Wolf even caught a pass in the third quarter. I mean, wait a minute, this is what we were hoping, this is what we were told was going to happen in the offseason and all this. It's finally taking place and all. How long do you think, what can come out from this game? One would think that defeat is imminent this upcoming week, but suddenly after the goings-on, the SEC seemingly to be at least the bottom spots a little bit more up for grabs than previously thought, is certainly, you think a bowl game's on the table for Tennessee here?
I think it's definitely time to start talking about a bowl game again. After going into the bye, nobody thought that. But I told you best case. Remember last week I told you best case scenario of the next 3 games was for the Vols to somehow split Auburn and South Carolina. Well, they've already done that, so they've already reached the best case scenario for October. Well, pretty much.
Yes, and 8-5. I mean, you start thinking. I was breaking this down. I mean, before this game, I was saying, boy, 4-8 last year. This could be 3-9 this year, and another 0-8. But after this game, and it's amazing what one victory will do. I don't want to be one of these guys that just goes into the left lane and, Tennessee is back. They beat Auburn, which, struggling on offense. How good is Auburn? This sort of thing. But still, suddenly South Carolina, Missouri, and Vanderbilt look like more winnable games than they were before. If you do win those and you defeat, Charlotte, that's 7-5, and maybe you get your 8th victory in a bowl game. So your best case scenario may actually come about. We're talking to Caleb Calhoun of allfortennessee.com. Jonathan Kongbo, linebacker, lost for the season with a knee injury, I do believe. How big is that for the Vols?
Well, I didn't want to talk about this yesterday when it happened because, you feel so bad for a player that bringing this up would just be super unfair, but because Saturday was Jonathan Kongbo's best game, and he had finally seemed to adjust to playing outside linebacker after the previous coaching staff and Butch Jones all but sabotaged his college career by forcing him to play defensive tackle for 2 years when he was not big enough to do it because of all the other injuries they had. But I will say that Jonathan Kongbo's injury may not be as bad as people think because DeAndre Johnson really showed something stepping in for Kongbo. And Johnson is actually a little bit faster than Kongbo. I always worried about Kongbo as a bit of a tweener. Maybe not fast enough to come around the edges. He proved me wrong on Saturday, but Johnson is a little bit faster, I think, and then you still have Darrell Taylor on the other side. So I don't think it's as crucial of a loss, but again, I just hate saying that because you never want to rain down on somebody like Kongbo after. I'm sure he's feeling devastated today.
Now, Caleb Calhoun, next week, Alabama. Now, Tua Tagovailoa, and yes, I had to write that out phonetically to be able to pronounce it. But anyway, Tua did hurt his knee against Missouri. Nick Saban says he's okay, but how big of an impact do you really think this is going to be? I mean, I would think that whether it's Tua, whether it's Jalen Hurts, what do you really got here?
I agree. I don't think it makes much of an impact. The only thing would be that Jalen Hurts does. I mean, he's still a quarterback he's still a great college quarterback, but his weakness, and this is why I actually predicted Georgia to win the national championship. Harris. And I think that Alabama, I mean, the Vols, if anybody's getting Alabama at a good time this year, it is Tennessee, because they're getting them at home as they're riding high off a win at Auburn. So, like, that's the good thing if you're trying to look for a positive out of this game. And they're playing with house money, because they could get blown out and no one's going to get mad. But I still don't. I just don't think they're good enough to compete at all. Let's do it for a half against this team. I'm
told that the Alabama-Tennessee, the spread wasn't there up, on Sunday and all this because of that injury. And I'm still now looking for a point spread, but eventually you got to figure one will come up. And if so, maybe, just maybe, you'll have a circumstance where, that makes the Vols able to cover or something, which would, I don't know. I mean, that means that you make some money, but you don't. But I don't know what it would really mean for the team. But to play Alabama competitively, maybe that would be something. We're talking to Caleb Calhoun of All for Tennessee. Hey, I heard that the offensive coordinator Helton was on the sideline rather than in the booth. What kind of an impact do you think that can make?
I think the biggest impact it had was on Garantano. It sounds like, and this was after listening to Jeremy Pruitt talk with Bob Kessling in the post-game radio interview on Saturday, because Pruitt had said that he believes that offensive coordinators are better with X's and O's calling from the press box, but there are sometimes those moments where they need to actually look their quarterback in the eye and call him out, and I actually think Pruitt was being honest there. I think that Helton probably needed to connect with Garantano a little more one-on-one, to tell him to take a few more shots when they're there, because we know he did not take those shots when he was facing Georgia 2 weeks ago. And I think that was probably a big reason to just kind of keep Garantano playing at the level that he was at and being as aggressive as he needed to be.
Well, there you go. I will tell you this. I was thinking of the New York Giants. And when they made a defensive coordinator switch, they went from, I believe it was Tim Lewis to Steve Spagnuolo. And Lewis, who, by the way, I have great respect for, but he was always a booth defensive coordinator. Spagnuolo went down to the sidelines, and they would speak of how there would be a lot of momentum, when the coordinator was on the sidelines and such. So take that for what it is and all that. I do understand wanting to see as a coordinator up and, how the play develops, and you're going to see that from the booth a little bit better, but still and all that. Hey, one last thing I want to break down that Auburn-Tennessee game. That 64-yard punt, end of the first half. I really think this is where the Vols won it, because it pinned Auburn so far back. Malzahn then, for whatever reason, calling the pass that went incomplete, and that gave Tennessee enough time left to get another 3, and suddenly you said, you know what? They're in this game. Whereas previously it was like, well, secondary can't cover the receivers of Auburn, it's just a matter of time. I thought that late field goal, really, you're all for Tennessee. The maxims, win the kicking game. That was a huge play in the game that really isn't talked about that much. But what was your take right here on Tennessee special teams this year? Is this a hidden gem that might actually win a game for him this year?
I 1,000% agree. I think the Vols have always had a pretty good punt game. I mean, I've called them punter you. I mean, you look at the people they turned out over the past 10 years.
The Colquitt family. I mean, yes, I know, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Colquitt and Trevor Daniel was awesome last year, and then you had Matt Darr, Michael Pilardi, so they've just been doing it on the regular pretty much since this century started. But I think Joe Doyle is carrying that torch. But the difference is, you're right, I don't think Tennessee has had a reliable field goal kicker like Brent Maglia since maybe James Wilhoit. And, I mean, I got to say that remember, Aaron Medley could not kick beyond 40 to save his life. And, you don't expect your college kickers to be automatic beyond 40, but you expect them to be able to hit maybe about at least 50%. Maglia hasn't missed for 40 this year outside of that one block, which wasn't his fault last weekend. And if Maglia does not make those two, not just the 45-yarder at the end of the half, but the 42-yarder to make it 7-3, that was huge. I mean, if they don't make those two field goals, I don't think Tennessee's in this game in the second half.
Okay, let me ask this to you. SEC, who's your biggest surprise?
SEC this year?
In the SEC, either East or West.
Right now, it still is Kentucky. Now,
Okay, more than LSU.
When you talk
Okay.
about Kentucky beating Florida, and Florida being a bit of a surprise,
Mm-hmm.
and considering the fact that, I mean, I joke about circular logic, but Florida did beat LSU, and then LSU just beat the brakes off of Georgia, and Kentucky did beat Florida. And so I think right now it has to be Kentucky. Now, I don't know if Kentucky is going to keep this up through the second half of the season, but they're definitely my biggest surprise so far.
I can see that. I might say LSU. I mean, Ed Orgeron was going to get fired, and now all of a sudden they're better than Georgia by a demonstrative amount of points. I mean, that sort of thing. So, what can you take? Yeah, and all that. Who's the biggest disappointment?
Oh, I think right now you have to pick, don't you? I mean, even though Vanderbilt and South Carolina and Arkansas are not where they want to be, Arkansas had a new head coach. No, Vanderbilt is still Vanderbilt, so even if they have hope, you never expect them to be near the top of the SEC. And then I think that arguably in South Carolina is what I actually expected them to be. I think Auburn is the biggest disappointment. They were thinking about competing for the SEC West. I said that they were actually the second best team in the SEC at the start of the year, and boy, I've been dead wrong on that.
Boy, yeah. I like Mississippi State. Of course, they're not top standings either. I mean, or right behind Alabama, but I kind of like Mississippi State as that number 2 team, and I believe they're ranked. I mean, they're 4-2, but that's the even Mississippi State maybe at 1-2, a little. I don't know. You can discuss that. They're still 4-2. I kind of thought Missouri is a big disappointment myself. Drew Lock, I thought he was going to win some games, and really, the big thing now is he played Georgia tough. Well, I don't know. The decision, by the way, for the onside kick against South Carolina may have lost the Tigers their game against the Gamecocks. If you saw that, I've kind of thought Missouri. Kind of looking at that as Locke take them to 8-4, 9-3. I'm not sure that's going to be the case this year.
But what I would add, the caveat I would add with Missouri is that the only loss that they should not have, that they shouldn't have lost, we're talking about with South Carolina, and that was a road game, and you had that heavy rain in the third quarter that just kind of threw everything for a loop.
Okay.
Outside of that, everybody expected them to lose to Georgia and Alabama this year.
Okay. Yeah, and that's a good point. Tough schedule. I mean, South Carolina, I think, is a little bit of a disappointment. I mean, getting blown out by Georgia, losing again to Kentucky, that's it. I thought South Carolina was number 2 in the SEC East. Not so sure now, that sort of thing. So, and as I said, that game with Tennessee in, 2 weeks now? That's really looking like, okay, sort of a statement where the program is type of game, which I think Tennessee, South Carolina really always is. More so than Tennessee fans want to admit. I think that they're in that barrel with South Carolina, and the winner of that game oftentimes is the one that goes into the left lane and does something in the season, that sort of thing. Okay, so it's Caleb Calhoun, allfortennessee.com. What's coming up this week at allfortennessee.com?
Well, we got something coming tonight. We're going to spend the last day, for the sake of all fans, recapping the win that they all loved on Saturday. But there were streaks that people talked about ended with Tennessee's win over Auburn, but a lot of people don't know how many streaks actually came to an end on Saturday. And we're going to break those down in a post tonight. And then we'll start talking about Alabama this week, and talking about what miracles the Vols could get to try to win this game. The only thing I would say is that Tennessee-Alabama this year is entering with a heck of a lot more energy than they had last year. I think last year Tennessee entered Alabama, and half of Vol Nation was hoping for Tennessee to get blown out just so they could get rid of Butch Jones faster.
It's an interesting point. That's because I understand totally what you're saying with that and such, but yeah, well, you got to tee it up. You got to play. There's always a chance that Alabama gets locked in the locker room, you've always got that. So, you got to play the game, but boy, it's a Herculean task, certainly, to defeat Alabama. If you thought Alabama was going to lose one game this year prior to the postseason, who do you think it would be to?
midway through, I'm like, okay, maybe LSU, but I at this point, I don't think either of those teams can beat them now. I know LSU beat the brakes off Georgia, but I said at the start of the season that Georgia's going to have a few hiccups. They're talented, but they're super young.
Yeah, Alabama, it's a machine. If there's anything, though, that I might say, surprises, it's very easy to say, Alabama, it's not a surprise they're number one, but maybe it's a surprise they're so good. Tua going, 10 of 11 with 4 touchdown passes and a half or something. It's like, wait a minute. I mean, we knew they'd win, but we didn't know they'd win to this extent, that sort of thing. I've wondered if maybe you could call them a surprise, but yeah, this is why Nick Saban is actually now asking reporters to say, please say something negative about it. Please give us something that doesn't make us complacent and all that sort of thing. Best I can come up is just Nick is a jerk. That's all. I mean, if you really want that.
That's also, he remembers the 2013 Alabama team.
Yes.
Everybody was anointing like this, and then the kick six happened.
Yes. Well, we get that. Caleb Calhoun of allfortennessee.com. I think it's a great site. I think Caleb Calhoun is one of the few journalists that covers Tennessee football. And hey, at least for a week, it's time to celebrate a victory against Auburn. You remember how big that used to be? It's big again. Tri-City Sports Now, top of the hour. We'll talk NASCAR with Jerry Bonkowski. Bottom of the next hour, ETSU in first place in the Southern Conference. SoCon John Hooper comes on, and we'll have the ETSU ranking for you in the next hour. Dirty, mean, mighty unclean. I'm coming back after this.